I was in love with Chrissy, and even though they told us it was over and that the hotel clip was the end, nobody was prepared for what happened in that courtroom. Chrissy didn't cry or deny. Instead, she looked the judge in the face and said the words that stopped everyone in the room from breathing. When Mama Jones yelled, the judge dropped his pen, and Camron leaned back in the corner with his arms crossed as if he already knew what she would say. This wasn't a leak, and this wasn't reality TV. Camron killed quiet. Jim didn't blink, didn't move, just stared at her like he was witnessing a stranger where his fiancé's flesh was a bomb, and Chrissy pulled the pin herself. There were no cameras, no script, no second takes, just the unvarnished, dirty truth of the courtroom. What happened next included 2 more clips, a voicemail and a sealed email thread in which Chrissy begs Mona Scott to remove the film. But it's too late, because back to that courtroom, back to the moment when Chrissy stood up, hands shaking, mascara streaked, lips shaking, and the world stopped. The truth isn't just out tits playing in 4K. Trust me. What she admits next contradicts everything you thought you knew. The judge had just asked her a simple question. Miss Lampkin, under oath, is there anything further you would like to share before we move forward with the evidence? No one, not even attorney, anticipated her speaking, but Chrissy moved the microphone, cleared her throat, turned to face Jim, and made an incredibly candid confession. I was in a relationship with Camron, and it wasn't just an emotional fling. It was a full-on, behind-the-scenes, late-night voicemail burning, phone deleting, text deleting connection that left half the room immobilized. She stated it as though she was finished concealing, as if the shame had already consumed everything else. Jim remained silent and sat there as if someone had disconnected him completely. At one point, he was Jim Jones, the Harlem Kingpin, the devoted writer, the Dipset legend, or then he was just a guy in a courtroom, being grilled by the woman he had built a whole brand around. You could hear a pin drop. The court clerk even appeared to have seen a ghost, and Camron, sitting too, rose back behind sunglasses indoors, had his head tilted slightly as if he had anticipated this moment. That USB clip video published last month wasn't just a preview peek. It was a declaration of war. Chrissy in a hoodie slipping into the Moran Hotel at 9:13 p.m. Perhaps he did, since perhaps this was the plan all along. Let's not act like happened. Suddenly, Reggie opens the door, pours wine, listens to slow music, and talks about drowning in someone else's life. However, it was Chrissy's voice stating, Jim still thinks I met my cousins. Which sent the internet into a frenzy. Let that sink in. Calm. Jim's ex-Depot brother, his former friend, the man who once toasted at their engagement dinner, was actually Camron. Chrissy simply stood on the stand and told the world she was with him. And now we're discovering it wasn't even Reggie in the hotel. The courtroom didn't burst. Instead, it froze. Mama Jones got to her feet so quickly that security had to hold on to both of her arms as she said, Wildeed, you snake, you ruined my son Chrissy. She didn't even wince or cry. Instead, she appeared exhausted, not sad, not apologetic, just finished, and she told the judge that she was ready to provide screenshots, travel logs, and pictures from burner phones as proof that everything Cam had already leaked was only the surface. She referred to this as the unfinished truth, as if this was a story she was finally prepared to share. However, things took a turn for the worse when Jim's attorney, who had been silent the entire time, Your Honor, based on this new admission, we'd like to file an immediate motion for fraud, emotional abuse, and brand sabotage. She leaned closer to the microphone and yelled. The whole Jim and Chrissy machine wasn't just based on love. It was monetized through VH1 specials, spin-offs, brand deals, podcast cameos, merch, wedding rumors that sold out interviews like tickets, and now it's all falling apart. This wasn't just a cheating scandal. It was a business implosion. Was phony, since the lady Jim called his day one was sharing secrets with his adversary on TV while testifying in court. Did we get here? Insiders claim that it didn't begin. with Reggie or Cam, but rather with resentment. Word is that Chrissy felt marginalized and desired greater authority over Cam, returned to the scene after she allegedly informed producers. "I'm not here to be his accessory. I'm building mine." Whether you think this was comfort, retaliation, or simply a chance, Chrissy's relationship with according to court documents. Chrissy reportedly saw Cam in private on 8 different occasions over the course of 2 years, including hotel check-ins, private flights, unregistered dinner reservations, and that USB. That was only clip 1. Cam's legal team now claims they have to. You're undoubtedly wondering, where's Jim in all this? After seeing more tapes, including a recorded voicemail in which Chrissy phones Mona Scott directly and says, "Cam can't know. He'll use it, please. Just make sure the footage is wiped." Oh, and that Cam released that too? Although he hasn't spoken in public, his quiet was audible in the courtroom. According to witnesses, his hands were shaking beneath the table where his lawyer gave him a stress ball, and he avoided making eye contact with Chrissy at any point during her testimony. Honestly, how could finding out that your worst enemy turned into your girl's safe haven? That the man you once toured with held the secrets she wouldn't even share at home? And that the world now knows, but wait, just as Chrissy's testimony came to an end, the judge asked if anyone else had something to turn in before recess, and guess who got up? Camron's lawyer. He was holding a brown folder when he stated, "We have more footage, and it's dated." Everyone in the room froze for a second. Camron's lawyer didn't have to raise his voice. The judge didn't blink and stated, "Submit it to the clerk," but you could hear the stress tightening in his throat. The bailiff walked a bomb to the bench, and perhaps he was enough to turn the courtroom energy on like a breaker switch. So we have additional tape, and it's dated. Because when that folder landed in the judge's hand, everyone realized that this was no longer a sideshow, but rather a demolition, and Chrissy looked completely different. Her eyes dropped to the ground, as if she already knew what was in that envelope, and her lip twitched and her blank stare cracked slightly. Perhaps she recalled what she said on the video. The judge opened the folder, took out a USB, and stated, "I want this played now. No delays." Jim's lawyer didn't object, but Chrissy's counsel was frantically muttering in her head. Cam's lawyer nodded. The screen was brought down, the projector turned on, and then there was silence, static. And then Chrissy, in a studio trailer with her hair wrapped and makeup free. She simply shook her head and said, "No, it's okay," and let it play. The other voice replies, "I'm Jan Dandy Smith. Girl, you're playing with fire. You know Cam hates him." "I'm not dumb. I know Jim's loyal," she says. "But loyalty doesn't fix. Bored Cam makes me feel something." Mona is aware that is off camera. It's not just a scandal, it's war. Chrissy sips her drink and then speaks the line that pierced the court. "I was caught once I talked my way out, but I won't lie the second time." The screen goes black, the court freezes. Jim, the court was silent. And Mama Jones was crying, not the crazy, irate kind from before, but heartbreak, she muttered to herself. She knew what she was doing, and Chrissy just sat there with her hands folded and her expression blank, as if she had already. The judge turned to her and said, "Manon, are you speaking in this footage?" To which she nodded once. "Yes, sir," he repeated, "and this is from a love and hip-hop trailer on set, unedited." But it wasn't over yet. This time she said without hesitation, yes. The court then turned to VH1's attorney, who acknowledged that they were in the room now, sweating and whispering into phones. Why was this footage not submitted in the original subpoena request? The attorney asked. The judge arched an eyebrow. But it's evident that Ms. Lannon and Ms. Smith are talking about the possible consequences of leaking video. And they both admit that we weren't aware it existed. It was recorded by a crew member off schedule. Wasn't logged into our system. Then came the real kicker. Cam's lawyer rose up once more. You could feel the walls closing in on everyone, as Camron continued to watch as if it were a show that he executive produced. Jim still standing still. Chrissy still frozen in silent resignation. A file was played, and Chrissy's voice was heard again, frantically muttering, "Mona, I told you that if Jim finds out, the entire season is ruined. Cam can't know either," added. This is a voicemail dated 2 weeks before that footage sent by Ms. Lampkin to Ms. Scott Young. She used Mona like a fixer, and the judge slammed the gavel to order in the courtroom. "It took 3 minutes to get it back. He'll use it. I need you to handle that room footage." Reggie swore it was deleted. "You promised, and the courtroom lost it. Everyone became quiet once more, but by then, the harm had already been done. This was a cover-up, a production manipulation, and an attempt to delete evidence during a legal matter that was still pending." VH1's lawyer appeared to be enjoying a career moment as got to his feet. His lawyer attempted to stop him, but he dismissed him. He turned to face Chrissy, and everyone held their breath as he took 3 steps closer and questioned her quietly. Was any of it real? The question resembled smoke in the air. Chrissy opened her mouth, blinked, and then looked down. She didn't say anything, and the stillness was louder than a slap. Jim nodded once, turned, and sat down. His lawyer murmured something in his ear, but Jim didn't flinch or respond. Then he abruptly took out a document and handed it to him. "The court filing now. The attorney said yes today. Mr. Jones would like to file a motion to countersue Miss Lampkin for emotional distress, willful misrepresentation, and brand fraud." The courtroom was still full of surprises, though, for as the judge was ready to take a break, a clerk appeared with a sealed letter. "From Homeland Security," he murmured softly, leaving the courtroom perplexed. The judge opened the package, read it quietly, and then looked up, face dead serious, according to information provided to this court. "Ms. Lampkin is also being investigated for obstruction in relation to a current charity fraud case involving the footage that was shown during earlier sessions." Chrissy's lawyer stepped up in protest, saying that is outside the scope of this case. The judge wasn't having it. "We'll take a half-hour break, but will this chaos?" Mona Scott's team appeared to be about to disappear, and VH1's representative began gathering documents as if they were going to be subpoenaed. Cam simply grinned because it wasn't just about Jim anymore. It was the slow-motion explosion of a whole brand, one confession at a time. And even though the brown folder had more footage written on it, it wasn't empty because Cam's attorney gave over a text log as the judge rose and recessed the court. "The clip drops, she deny it. But I'm done protecting her. Let Cam have it. Let them all burn." 30 minutes felt like 3 hours. She wrote the final text on the page from a burner phone that was registered to Reggie. During recess, people didn't leave the courtroom. Instead, they paced, murmured, and glared at Chrissy. Jim Jones didn't look at anyone, not even the judge, the reporters, or Mama Jones, who sat behind him holding a tissue as if it were the last thing she would ever do. But Cam didn't blink, shift, or say anything. It was as if she were some reality show villain who had just stepped off the screen and into real life. When the court resumed, the tension was so high that it seemed as though sound could not travel. The judge returned, put down his papers, and wasted no time in reviewing the final items submitted in the text. He was cool and silent, as if he knew that his name would be the last one on screen when the credits rolled. "The clip drops, she deny it, but I'm done protecting her. Let Cam have it. Let them all burn." Then came the second message, one that the internet hadn't seen and one that Chrissy believed would remain. The log was obtained from a burner phone belonging to the person named Reggie. He scanned the page slowly. She claimed that Dipset was done and that she wanted to feel strong for once. She said that Cam treated her like a queen, and I was just the cover. I was buried forever. A woman in the second row again, muttering, "Oh my God." The judge glanced straight at Chrissy and asked Manon, "Are you aware of these messages?" Nodded once and said, "I am now. Do you deny their content?" "No." At that point, Jim's attorney reappeared. With your consent, we would also want to present a contract that was signed by Mr. Jones and Miss Lannon, outlining their joint ownership of their planned Netflix documentary series. Comprises exclusivity rules, emotional representation terms, and brand equity clauses that we now suspect were broken. That contract was genuine. Chrissy breaking it while shooting a show about their eternal love would have prevented the courtroom from breathing. The judge skimmed the contract and asked Ms. Lampkin, "Were you involved with Mr. Giles and Mr. Camron during the planning and promotion of this series?" Chrissy took a deep breath before saying the sentence that made the entire trial historic. "This legal sabotage. Yes, and if Jim found out." The affair with Camron began before the series was pitched, before the trailer, before the reunion special, when she sobbed about wanting to grow together. There were no more rumors, blurry footage, or theories. She once told a man, "Chrissy saved my life and lied on camera in court." Jim didn't stand, didn't react. He just whispered, "I knew it." To no one specifically. Then he left without a statement. No publicist, no security. Simply the judge ordered a 5-minute break, but it was too late for leaked emails and screenshots from producer group chats. A man walking away from the wreckage of a life he believed to be real. Mona's ghosting everyone. "I think she's done." Read one online message. Others said, "We're looking at class action lawsuits if this footage goes live." And then came the knockout. A former VH1 editor posted anonymously, "You don't realize that this wasn't merely a performance. This was contrived sadness." They convinced Jim that love existed for the purpose of camera angles, and Chrissy complied until she was forced to stop. By nightfall, the SARS Chrissy Confession hashtag had received 7 million views. And TikTok was overflowing with clips of her testimony. The clip received 3 points. Cam went live that same night wearing a black hoodie, minimal lighting, and a single sentence. "I told you she wasn't built for him," was stacked with depressing music, glitchy edits, and captions like she wanted fame, he wanted forever. With a 2-sentence press release that received 2 million views in less than an hour, Mona Scott finally spoke up. "I was unaware of Miss Lampkin's behind-the-scenes conduct, and I am cooperating with all legal investigations going forward." However, no one believed her because producers now the scene in question is a snipped clip from the Netflix series where Jim asks Chrissy point blank, "Do you still love me?" Assistants and interns were crawling out of the woodwork, dropping tea, spilling emails, and disclosing deleted scenes. Reacts more than anything at this point. Fans are claiming that she looked to the left after saying that, as if she was looking for a clue that it wasn't real. To make matters worse, the episode's editor acknowledged that they omitted the next sentence, adding, "Chrissy paused and whispered off camera. I hope that's sufficient for now." Jim has apparently gone. His team released a statement on his recovery. All of a sudden, the love story that constituted VH1's Ride or Die branding was nothing more than a skillfully edited fiction. Therapy and preserving what little serenity he still had. Chrissy, on the other hand, has been quiet. The night after the verdict, she posted a silent Instagram story with a black background and white text that read, "You can love someone and still break them." The internet didn't like it. Comments flooded in. "Delete this. Jim deserved better. Cam used you. Ulet reportedly signed a distribution deal for a docu-series called The Footage They Tried to Bury." In the teaser trailer, it's one shot of Chrissy's face frozen mid-sentence. It's the words, "If this comes out, Jim's going." Cam's voice cuts too. Black and I learn that the teaser ends. The complete series premieres next month. And VH1 is silent because the public heard a confession, not just the court. Now that no one is watching the show, they're watching fallout. So the only question that's left is whether, since no reality TV program can ultimately write this type of, no producer can prevent you from heartbreak. From receipts, the narrative is finished, the truth is finally out, and the brand is dead. Forever.